Okay, well, here I am leaving near Athens. Got a 250-mile ride with this thing. Let's hope it goes fairly smoothly. Made it home with this car yesterday. It pulled very nicely. The last one I towed, the white 97 that I have, these wheel bearings are shot. So the thing just swayed left and right the whole time. It made it nearly impossible to tow safely. Got some paw prints on the seat. Those will clean up. 3 of the door handles are broken. And unfortunately, this screw that holds the handle in is MIA, and it is left-hand thread, so I'm gonna have to figure out something on that. Have not put a battery in yet. Can't open the trunk yet. Usually this lock doesn't work anyway, so this handle works. This, yeah, that doesn't. Dang. Well, this screw is right-hand thread, so that's not a big deal. I need to repair this door panel also. That's not a big deal. I'm not sure how many miles it has yet. It should be over 300, I think. This is the only one of these cars I have that has this silly engine cover on it. It's kind of neat just to see it, but I'll probably make it a wall hanger. Anyhow, I plan to, in the next clip, take the cover off, take the timing cover off, and at least check the belt, because I don't want to start this thing without checking the timing belt. It's new, but it's been sitting for a couple of years. Oh yeah, that's another thing. That part of the dipstick tube is supposed to stay on the dipstick tube itself, not come with the dipstick. But those are like $5. No big deal. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with my 3rd TDI so far. Okay, well, the timing belt looks okay. It looks good enough, at least to see if it'll run. So I'm gonna stick the battery in. We'll see. I don't want to add too much. It's been sitting, so I'm going to have to change it. And I don't want to waste this rotilla. All right. It's acceptable. I'm not going to drive it anywhere. The CV axles need to be replaced. They're popping and slinging grease. I'm sure it's gonna tick. After these things sit a while, they bleed down. Uh-oh. yeah, I'm not getting any indication on the miles or the trip meter. So maybe there's a blown fuse. And I'm hearing something besides that annoying La Cucaracha buzzer. Maybe I have to press the pedal. Yeah, there we go. Well, maybe this battery's just sat too long in another car. But yeah, I'll get the jumpers and a spare battery. Have my battery hooked up. Got the ground clipped to the engine. See if she'll go. Okay, so apparently we need a muffler. That's not a big deal. That was pretty easy. Guy said it ran, and it sure does. I just got to figure out why we got no instruments. Oh, looks like the alternator might be dead. Okay, well, we'll test that. Well, it's ticking pretty good, but I think that'll go away once it gets some heat in it. The alternator's only putting out 11.87, so I would definitely say it is no good. So I'll have to, since the white car is not drivable right now, I'll probably steal it off there. But yeah, seems pretty good. Seems pretty good. And it's all the usual stuff with these cars that I have to replace. That's why I bought it, because I knew it, and he told me so. This alternator is pretty easy to replace. I am gonna disconnect the battery even though it's dead. I don't want any mishaps. Okay, ground strap is off. Now, use a long 13, or you can use a crescent wrench on the tensioner. But this will work. Oh, darn it. Apparently at some point I must have replaced that 13mm headed bolt with a 12. It's been so long I didn't remember. Anyway, now crack your 2 mount bolts loose. Let me get the camera in here better. Now what you're gonna have to do, let's see, well, okay, before you back the bolt out too far, you're gonna need to take the wrench back off. If you're not using the ratcheting wrench, it'll be easier to get off or to get out of here. Okay, the ratchet's trapped, so what I'm going to do is pull the tensioner out of the way. Now I can get to the bolt with my fingers. Don't let it go though, because it'll be a bad day. You have to hold it out of the way to get this bolt out, because it won't come past it if it's in the rest position. Take off your positive. I'm going to have to get a ratchet for that. There's a 13. And then there's an 8 that holds the cable to the thing so that it doesn't just vibrate. Okay, there's the hold down. That's out of the way. And like I said, make sure your battery's undone, because that could touch anything and really cause some problems. Be careful, don't pry too hard. But you will need something to pry, because this thing is, these bushings hold it pretty solidly. Then undo your squeeze clamp there, and the alternator's out. It's pretty much the reverse, so I'll just shut off the camera until I get it back in. Alright, I have both bolts in. They're not tight, but you can see there's a lot of slack, and that's because these bushings are really, really tight. That's why you have to pry it off, but then you need to make sure you drive these bushings back in. It doesn't have to be a lot. I went a little overboard, but anyway, now when you tighten it up, you need to pull this bushing. The screw will pull the bushing back through and tighten it up, and then it'll be ready. Try this again. Figure out why it's not wanting to start. It's being a real jerk. Try it again. Okay, battery light is out. So I read that the instrument cluster not working could be because of the ignition switch, and I just jumped the starter straight to the solenoid, or powered straight to the solenoid, and it fired up no problem. I couldn't get it to crank from the key, so I'm going to go ahead and yank the ignition switch. and see if I can, you know, get it to work. I've already undone the nut for the steering wheel, and there were two 5mm Allen bolts here on either side for the airbag. Hopefully I'll get this steering wheel back on straight, but it's really not that difficult if I don't. Alright, now I gotta put the gear puller on this little collar here and pull that off. So that's the next step. This is the ignition switch, not the lock cylinder. That's there. The ignition switch is on the back of here. I'm gonna have to pull this multifunction switch and then pull this to get this out. This is a new one. But before I go to that trouble, I'm sure it needs to be replaced, but I'm gonna test it. This was very difficult to unplug. This is the back of this. So I'm gonna unplug it and see what we get. All right, here we go. Let's see if we got gauges. There's magic smoke coming out. Alright, so we still have no gauges, so apparently the ignition switch was not the problem. But it did solve the no crank. I think the gauge cluster must be dead. I went ahead and pulled a cluster, a known good cluster, from one of my other 3 cars. Well, no, one of the other 2 cars. This is the 3rd. I know this one works, so I'm going to swap this out and see if I can get some response. I'm hoping that putting this one in gives no response, and then it'll be a wiring problem rather than having to find another cluster, because that ain't gonna be cheap. Okay, they both have the same part number. Okay, I have my ignition switch hanging, and this Leatherman fits perfectly. Of course, wipers were on. Oh yeah, I think the problem is with the cluster. Yeah. Well, that's too bad. I'm gonna take this cluster apart, see if there's some bad solder joints or something, but maybe the logic chip is dead or something, which sucks. But we have the display. This is the miles from the white car, and it always resets at 1 o'clock when you connect the battery again. But you saw the tach come up, and the gas gauge also came up. So yeah, it's the cluster. But the ignition switch definitely was bad, because it wouldn't crank but maybe 1 out of 10 times. All right, well, did some research. Everybody said that this was the problem. It's some sort of logic chip. Anyway, they also said this capacitor and this purple one here could be the problem. Well, I couldn't find this purple one anywhere. I had to drive 40 miles to get this one capacitor here. It is a 470 microfarad at 35 volts. The original was 470 at 25 volts, but as long as you go up in voltage capacity, not a problem. You can't go down. Anyhow, the cluster is now working. When I plugged it in, all these stepper motors reset, and as you see, the LCDs are working again. It's fantastic. Okay, well, the temperature light is flashing. It is not warm yet, and it's got plenty of water, so I'm just gonna ignore it for now. And neither of the front windows are hooked up. This is basically a test drive to make sure the speedometer is, the needle is on properly, and by the looks of it, I don't think it is. Okay, so let's try this again. The camera might be a little shaky because it's on the back seat, just chilling on the tripod. This is the first drive. hope you enjoyed it. Please give a like and perhaps a subscribe. Thanks. Alright, well, I'm glad I didn't put it back together yet, because, yeah, when I tried to pull the needle off again, the whole thing came apart inside. Fortunately, it should go back together. I may put a dab of glue on it so that doesn't happen again, or hopefully won't happen again. But, yep, that's it.